As some of you may know, I am a fan of the Kai Toki series. While I personally wasn't too fond of the first game's card battle gameplay, I did end up really liking the second game of the series, Moero Chronicle. I found the style of ecchi and fan service quite humorous, and the dungeon crawling gameplay was pretty fun too. For years I wanted to see an English release of the third game, Moero Crystal, but unlike Moero Chronicle, Crystal never ended up having one. Until now, it only took 5 years. Like the two previous games, Moero Chronicle H started out as a Vita game, but here in the West it's an exclusive Switch game instead. The H signifies that it's a port/remaster, and it includes all DLC, and that's a nice thing. Thank you very much to East Asia Soft for providing me with a download code for the game. I also bought the limited edition, so we'll take a look at that later in the video. Like Moero Chronicle, Moero Crystal is a dungeon crawler. In fact, they're very similar, sharing most of the game mechanics. But there are some welcome alterations and additions. The storyline of Crystal is quite out there. The main character is Xenox, which is a pretty weird name, not to mention his appearance. He recently went down to look for his dad. While doing that, he was mistakenly thought to be a thief who stole a holy relic, but the misunderstanding was cleared quickly as it became clear that a shadowy figure is the real culprit. So what kind of holy relic was stolen? A bra, obviously. Apparently, the bra of darkness and panties of light can't be separated or the world will end, obviously. So Xenox and Luana, a guard at the shrine, end up teaming up and try to retrieve the bra. The evildoer goes around and subjects monster girls to the bra of darkness, which causes them to hate humans. So as you go through the various dungeon floors, you're going to have to defeat those monster girls before they can join your party. I'm still trying to figure out which story is more bizarre, Moero Chronicle or Crystal. I guess we'll consider them as equals. As I said, it is a dungeon crawler, so it's got the usual turn-based battles going on that you might expect. Regular attacks, special attacks, an elemental system, you know, the usual sort of thing. The dungeon is grid-based and has several floors, with each becoming more difficult as you go. You reveal each tile of the dungeon as you move along. At first, the floors are accessible in a sequential order, but soon you'll get instances where the floors are out of order, and you have to go up and down a few times before clearing the dungeon. Encounters are for the most part random. The enemies look very suggestive, which can be pretty amusing. Story events and encounters, as well as more difficult fights like higher ranked monsters and also monster girls, have icons which you can see. The monster girls actually walk along a path, so that makes them a bit different compared to the other ones, which are stationary. This is how the battles work. Xenox can't fight, but the monster girls can. The girls handle the normal and special attacks. Xenox does have a purpose in that there's several functions only he can do. For example, he's the only one who can use items. Most RPGs I know allow your whole party to make use of items, so that takes some getting used to. One tip I have is to make sure you've got plentiful amounts of items that heal the whole party, not just one person. Another gameplay function that exists is the desire meter. Basically, you can store some each turn or release it on a girl if you see fit. Whichever girl you select will receive an attack bonus. And the attack is stronger the higher the accumulated desire is. Now, that's what I call a game mechanic. Desire can be used for one other thing. If you have at least 30% stored, you can change the turn order of one of the girls, so it's a good way to get in some more attacks before the opponent's turn comes. One thing to note is that you should do something if the meter is at 100. If you store more than that, the percentage goes to 0 and then there's a cooldown period, which isn't ideal. Battling monster girls works a bit differently to regular battles. The basics are still the same, but here you can target the various parts of the opposing girl's outfits. Each bit is affected by certain elemental attacks, and it's different for each girl. After either destroying each part of the outfit or bringing her HP to 0, the game switches to the rubbing minigame, which is where when you succeed, will remove the Dark Brow's influence on the girl and convert her to your side. Basically, each girl has 3 weak spots. You can use the touchscreen or controller controls to do this, but it's definitely much easier in handheld mode because you can be a lot faster. And there is a time limit. Once you see the red, blue, or yellow symbols, tap away until each corresponding meter fills up. Then you have to rub the screen really quickly back and forth. Another alternative is to rotate both analog sticks around as fast as possible. After that, then congratulations, you have another party member, and hopefully your analog stick survived if you use that method. When not in a dungeon, you can do things like buy items and equipment. But if you go to the inn, which is your HQ, you'll find access to more dating sim style or simulation kind of aspects of Moero Crystal. Everyone has their room at the inn where you can talk to the girls, give them presents, as well as play various mini games in order to increase affection between the girls and the main character. A lot of this stuff is quite useful, and I would say, most of it is either optional or semi-optional. Getting to at least one heart will allow you to change a girl's outfit, which changes their stats. There's 4 you can choose from. The first one is the standard outfit, and the rest can be found around dungeons as either treasures or drops from enemies. If you spot a monster with a heart symbol, that means that it can potentially drop an outfit if you attack it with a special attack that it's weak against. You can also do the rubbing minigame, which if done successfully will increase affection. It works a bit differently than when you're trying to capture them, but the concept is the same, or similar at least. In fact, if you've played the previous game, then it's basically exactly the same mechanics as that. It's the capturing rubbing minigame that's different. The girls' rooms can be upgraded, and the better the room is, the more experience they'll get when in battle, among other benefits. You can also turn on and off XP share for each girl, which is very convenient. A new minigame that is added is Doki Doki Shooter, and I have to say it's kind of annoying, or at least I had trouble understanding it properly the first time I played it. You can play Doki Doki Shooter for each girl, and it serves as a way to increase affection. There's a vertical shooter element, some other touch mini game, and then there's a dungeon. Personally, I think they should have probably spent a little more time refining how it works, but maybe I just have to get used to it. I'll probably dive more into it once, I try to max out affection levels and all that, which is not something I've done yet. The game looks pretty good in my opinion. They said it's remastered for HD, but there's some elements here and there where you're like, oh, well, that's not really that high resolution, but I don't know, nothing looks off, so I'm not really going to complain. The dungeon gameplay is a bit simplistic in terms of graphics, but the art style is very good, the character art is nice, and the enemy designs are pretty amusing. I generally don't have too much of a problem with the dungeons, but I do think the first one's quite bad. I think it looks awful. It's also really repetitive. It's like the same design just over and over and over, and then there's like an object here and there. I don't know, it just seems a bit weird. And the second one as well, where it just looks like a casino, and it's... I don't know, I just prefer, I guess, the fantasy look over those, whatever's going on here, I guess. The game runs at 60 frames per second, so it's generally smooth. I say generally because there are instances where frame rate drops. There's instances in the menus where the game dips below 30 FPS, like in the store, I think, or when you're going through items sometimes. It's like, why would it stutter though? We're just buying items here or whatever it is. It's just a menu. When selecting outfits, I've seen the game slow down as well. This was a problem with the Switch port of Moero Chronicle as well. As far as I can recall, I never had anything like that going on with the Vita version. While I don't have experience with the Vita version of Moero Crystal, it does seem that it's a port issue since the slowdowns happen in the same places on both Switch games. The slowdowns aren't a problem in battle, so I'm not going to be too critical, but you'd think they'd try and iron that out on their second go. Now let's talk about some differences between Moero Chronicle and Moero Crystal. They are really similar because the basics are the same. One difference is that the touch minigame to capture monster girls is slightly different in the new game. The old minigame still exists when doing bump scratching in the inn. The addition of being able to switch the turn order at 30% desire is new. When defeating monster girls, they'll also be replaced with tougher than standard encounters that wander the same paths the girls did in the dungeon. I like that because it makes grinding a bit more interesting. Beware though, they are much more powerful than the monsters on the same floor. At least that's how it was in normal difficulty. So you might want to perhaps level up a little bit before you take those on. There's a new autopilot function. Basically, you select where on the map you want to go, and you'll automatically move to that location. But only if you've discovered that bit of the map. In fact, the system will go around tiles you haven't been on yet, even if it would be more efficient not to. I think it works well, especially because you continue moving after winning battles. You can cancel movement if you change your mind mid-transit. Back at the inn, all you need to do in order to unlock the ability to change outfits is to get to the first heart, which is now much easier. If you have one outfit and give it to a girl, then that automatically brings affection up by 1 heart. That's very convenient. A lot of times I only, let's say I only found one item or one outfit, if I were to gift it to a girl, I sometimes would still need to find an item to give, as well as a present to bring the affection up. And sometimes it's a bit of a trial and error affair, because not all the girls like the same sort of things. You can also capture monster girls so you don't have to fight them right away. I guess it's this game's version of a Pokeball, except that it works differently. The training area is where you can capture them for real and make them available to use in your party. The training area is new, by the way, and you can redo past battles, which don't give you much experience, but perhaps more importantly, that's where you can fight the DLC monster girls and then have them join your party. I don't know if DLC is really the correct term in this case, because they are part of the game, like it comes with it, but I guess the point is that they were originally DLC on the Vita game. If you're wondering why you're not seeing the DLC monster girls, then you probably haven't activated them, which you can do on the title screen. In terms of the English translation, it's actually done properly this time. Moero Chronicle had wonky translations and weird grammar, but that's not the case in Crystal. There are some other differences as well, not just what I've mentioned, but I think that covers it quite well. Let's change gears and take a look at the limited edition. It's a PlayAsia exclusive and it's limited to 3,000 copies. Despite being a Compile Hard developed game, it's not published by Idea Factory here in the West. It's published by East Asia Soft, hence why the limited edition isn't on the Iffy store. This isn't the first time I ordered something from PlayAsia. I bought Moero Chronicle, and also the Dead or Alive Extreme 3 limited edition for the PS4, but this is the first time I bought something exclusive at their store. Since then, they also changed up their branding with a new logo, as well as turning the green stuff on their website blue, which is a thing I guess. But more importantly, they sent more extra stuff in the box, like stickers and a mask holder. But what I really liked was the mini case. It's a keychain you can also put a game inside, which is pretty fun. There was also a Moero Crystal sticker that was included and laid on top of the LE box, but unfortunately it migrated during shipping and ended up with a tiny crease. Could have been worse, I guess. The LE box is pretty nice, and thankfully, they didn't go all Cardboardius Maximus on us. Unlike another recent limited edition we looked at this channel. There's something about the box which feels premium. The finish somehow feels a bit softer than other limited editions, or those boxed Switch games. It's a bit hard to describe. The logo is also embossed, which is a nice touch. The cover has a dynamic looking group shot of a bunch of monster girls. It's quite colorful and also different to the game cover, which is always a good thing. I'm not too much of a fan when they use the same image over and over again. The back doesn't show you anything in regards to screenshots, but if you're buying an LE of this, then you know what you're getting into anyway. There's a cardboard contraption that cleverly holds all the items so you can pull out the contents in one go. First thing is the certificate, which has a very artistic illustration. These LEs are numbered and mine's 1637 out of 3000. There's a holographic sticker on the back of the box, and it also has the number on there. I didn't notice that until later. The logo is embossed like on the box. There's an art book, which is pretty cool. It's funny how the back cover just has nothing except a butt to one side. The paper is quite thick, though nothing too special. Not saying that it's bad or anything. There's a lot of monster girls, so it's filled with illustrations of them. And there's also some good concept art. There's 2 sets of stickers, which I'm not going to use since I like to keep that sort of thing intact. The game box itself is like the regular edition. Looks good to me. The back this time actually has screenshots. It's all laid out well and easy to see. Usually back covers can get quite cluttered, but since there's just one language, that didn't happen. The inside has the game cartridge, a color manual, and the reverse side of the cover serves as a background. It's the same image as used on the front, except more unraveled. It's definitely not meant to be reversible, but rather a background because the characters just don't line up properly if you flip it around. I'm really pleased to see a color manual. It's good that companies are keeping the manual alive. Now it's your turn, car manufacturers. The soundtrack is in a jewel case. I like that the cover image is another illustration once again. The track list can be found on the back and also on the reverse side of the cover. The soundtrack cover art is used on the CD, and the LE box cover art is used on the background, or as the background. Overall, the limited edition of Moero Chronicle H is quite nice. I like what they included, the designs they used, and also the PlayAsia goodies, specifically the little game case. So that's Moero Chronicle H and its limited edition. I think fans of the series will enjoy this game even though it's so similar to Moero Chronicle. Normally that would be a criticism, but then again, we aren't talking about a Neptunia game being remade for the 5th time or whatever it is now. Crystal has around double the amount of monster girls, over 80 versus Chronicle, which came in somewhere between 40 to 50 if I remember correctly. That's a lot, and for fans of the series, that's also kind of the appeal. You get a whole bunch of new ones, but I've noticed that there's some from the previous game as well, which is actually nice. You know, get to see some familiar faces. Overall, it's a solid game, even without the fan service shenanigans. The dungeon crawling is still pretty fun. There's a 4th game in the series that came out on the Vita in 2016. It's Kai Toki 7 Pirates. The art style is all changed up to be more cutesy, though it's still very ecchi. And the game also changed to 3D. In fact, it looks a bit like a Neptunia game, which worries me because it might lose its identity that it managed to build up over the years. But it's not been released here in the West, and I have no idea if it ever will be. But Moero Crystal was released in the end, so who knows. There's also a sequel to 7 Pirates called Kai Toki Castle Panzers. Some gratuitous German there for some reason. It came out in 2017, so yeah, we're quite a bit behind in the West when it comes to the series, but I hope we'll be able to see more in the future. So that's that. I hope you found the video helpful. Let me know what you think of the game, especially if you've played it yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.